Welcome to the Nailed It Wall.
On this week's episode of the Nailed It Wall, we're going to find out who your dynamic hosts are, what is the Nailed It Wall, and how do we celebrate failure in the classroom. Welcome to episode 1 of the Nailed It Wall. I'm Mr. Lane, the STEM guy.
I'm Mrs. Scofield.
And we're so excited to be joining you. For years, we've been talking about starting our own podcast where we celebrate all of our successes, all of our failures, where we have students on talking about all the cool things they're doing in the classroom setting.
That's right. For a long time, we were trying to figure out how do you really express that with other educators, like taking failure and using that as more of a learning tool and just as a growing thing for us as teachers as well.
Yeah, a little bit our hosts. Just finished my 10th year of teaching. Taught 5th grade science for 5 years, 8th grade science, 3rd grade, short little stint, 2.5 years teaching 3rd grade. I learned a lot about the self-contained classroom. In the past 2 years, I've been doing STEM computer science elective for 1st through 8th grade.
Yeah, I'm way more of a newbie to this. This is my 2nd year that I just finished teaching 8th grade science. I teach a STEM elective, and I run an all-girls computer science and STEM club called the Moxie Girls. So I'm much more new to this, and I have tons to learn.
And with all that being said, this past year, we love to share everything that we do in the classroom, whether it be on Twitter, YouTube, at conferences, things like that. We've had the opportunity to speak on equity in STEM, getting people excited about STEM opportunities. So something that we really enjoy is kind of presenting at these different conferences, doing all these fun things, and just kind of getting out there and meeting all these people. And we thought this would just be the great medium where we could kind of do this. And this past year, the most exciting thing that we did, another thing that we've talked about for years, and kind of like that's why we enjoy this, because all of a sudden we're doing all those things that we've been talking about, and we're just going to make it happen this year. We want. I remember the first time you told me, you're like, yeah, there's like this whole Google certification thing for teachers. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds awesome. We should do that. And, that was 4 years ago. And this past year, we went through the Google Certified Educator Level 1 and Level 2. And by December, we'd already taken the trainer course and become trainers.
It was rapid fire for sure. Being able to kind of just jump into that and then also then taking that and then sharing that with other educators. We've been fortunate to turn our learning around and then share that with the people in our district and other people that we know, which has been an amazing opportunity.
Yeah, this semester we taught our district's Level 1 Google certification class. We had people from 1st grade taught all the way up to senior year in high school. Just a great group of teachers, and it was an awesome experience for us because I felt like we learned so much as people teaching about this type of technology, but kind of seeing how they take that technology and bring it back to their classroom.
Yeah, and really, when you teach a class like that, you really have to be able to get people out of their comfort zone and help them understand that with anything that you're doing that's new, there's going to be a lot of failure, and that's not a barrier, that you kind of jump in and you tweak things and you persevere. And then the outcomes that we saw people experiencing when they tried these new things were pretty remarkable. So we're pretty fired up about that.
Yes, and I loved it. I mean, I encourage anyone, if you're like thinking about it, like Casey Bell, she's amazing. If you really want to get into the Google certification, she just posts all these amazing things, resources, her newsletter that she emails you. I always go through everything that she emails, and I learned so much just from that Twitter Professional Learn Network that's kind of really helped us grow as these trainers. But even with that being said, the whole trainer route was not something that we really set out to kind of do. We're enjoying it, but I think our ultimate goal is to kind of go for that Google, the Google Innovator.
That's right. It's like the holy grail of Google, but it's much more where our mindset is, like being able to be innovators and really take yourself to a different level and be able to really impact the world with something that you're passionate about.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like I always think about computer code. All of a sudden, you can take something, with a click of a button, and it can be anyone's hands around the world. And that's where we really hope this podcast kind of goes from there. Even if it's only our parents subscribing to this, we would still think that's a success. I always think about when we do these digital projects, we can always look back and think about like where did we start, where have we come. Our kids can always look back and kind of listen to these things and be like, have a good laugh or just kind of hear our voice.
And when we were talking about like what did we want to talk about, what represents us, what kind of is a name that is something that would really be something that resonates with us and something that we could speak to. We went through a lot of different ideas, and really the nailed it wall was something that we just kept coming back to. I think because I know you've been really big on celebrating failure in your class. Talk a little bit about what you say to the fourth graders and the kids when they leave.
I mean, I think from like day one, I always remember that I always taught the kids think different, and I'd always play that Apple commercial for my kids anytime we go through these scientific method, and we kind of go through this process here. And I would always embrace these kids that think different, think outside the box, embrace failure, and that's what you do along the scientific method. You kind of go back, you restart. And a lot of teachers are like, wow, you're teaching the students that it's okay to fail, or, just embracing this mentality of thinking different. And one of my favorite things was with my sixth graders, we'd go through our science fair, we did the invention convention, and we'd always end it with my favorite Disney movie, Meet the Robinsons. Now, what is the motto, Meet the Robinsons?
I won't lie, I've actually not seen that movie.
Wow.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm barely insulted right now,
Yeah.
but the whole thing is all about keep moving forward, and they sing the song. I would sing it to the kids and they get so excited. And years later, they'd always come back to me and they'd always talk about keep moving forward, keep moving forward. Sorry about singing. I'm not a singer.
No, I think we can all agree that you nailed that.
Exactly. So, you want kids to take chances. You want them to step out of their comfort zone and know that they can swing for the fences and not be penalized by a grade or something that's going to kind of hold them back. And I think that's something that, both of us have just, really embraced as educators, as parents, as people.
Yeah, and, when I was first starting last year, trying to decide, specifically I'm teaching science. So when you talk about the scientific method, failure is part of that, but I don't really think that that's a highlighted part, and it's not really something that a lot of teachers kind of promote, if you will. And so I really wanted that to be something that didn't hold kids up, because we've been fortunate with the Moxie Girls and with Rubik's Cube and other things that we did, even a Minecraft club. When kids are willing to fail and take chances, then they're able to accomplish all of these great things. But their fear of that, about making a mistake, making a fool of themselves, it just is such a barrier to anything that's big and productive and just that next level. And so I really don't want that to be something that I had in my class. And especially, teaching middle school kids, that's a huge issue. Nobody wants to make a fool of themselves. And so they really had to, shift that mindset that that's not what's happening, but it's such an opportunity. And what you do with that opportunity is really what makes the difference. And then even with girls, we're trying to get girls into STEM, we're trying to get girls into computer science, and not being worried what people think, not getting hung up on, well, what if I fail? That's huge. And so just being able to have the privilege of using that kind of as our platform for this is such an awesome opportunity, I think, that we were pretty pumped about.
Yeah, totally. And I think, you want to talk about some of your highlights on the Nailed It wall. So tell us, what is the Nailed It wall, and where was it in your classroom?
Okay, so the Nailed It wall is something that, based on you and I having conversations about, just celebrating failure, I wanted there to be a visual representation of that somewhere in my classroom, and just kind of toyed around with different ways that would look. And I had this huge bulletin board. And again, as a new teacher, I'm like, what am I going to fill that with? And so then I just thought, well, what if we make that an area that year after year you just continue to build on, and it's like your highs and lows for everyone, and stuff that you really illustrate to the kids. You draw attention, and if they accomplish something, you take a picture or you put whatever it is up on that nailed it wall. So like some of the things, a huge thing on the nailed it wall this year was in my STEM exploratory. I wanted all the kids to solve the Rubik's Cube at least one time. And as a kid myself, I could never solve the Rubik's Cube when I was a kid. And then when my son had Mr. Lane for third grade, that got Sam really fired up to try. And it took us months because clearly we struggled with the booklet, I'll tell you. But we finally accomplished it. And then from then that's something that I'm really passionate about, and I really love to go back to that, and I really enjoy solving the cube. And I wanted my kids to have that same sense of accomplishment. So every quarter I teach a new group, and every quarter they solve the Rubik's Cube. And when they do, I'll take a Polaroid and I have them sign and date it, and they put it up on the board. But that's like one thing. There's also like, why don't you talk about the Samsung thing?
And thinking about the nailed it wall is like sometimes you nail things so great and sometimes you nail things so bad. That's the phrase nailed it. And I think like you were somebody that was like, coined that phrase from the beginning. Like, you'd always be like nailed it, whether it be good or bad. And even before like that cooking show came out, I'm like, now there's a cooking show. So I give you credit for for coining the phrase nailed it, and like kind of giving it that cachet. I remember the slip and slide you had in your backyard, and Ryan just went full blast and completely missed the slide in the puddle. But then you just said nailed it, and that's kind of been something that's defined like who you are and like what it means to the kids. And I remember, like, I was just starting out with a 3D printing last year, and like some project just went like crazy, and I wasn't paying attention to it. And you're like, oh my goodness, you nailed that. And then you're like, I want to put this on the nailed it wall. And then you took it and you stapled it up to the nailed it wall, and all the kids were coming in. They're like, what is that? Like,
that was a good conversation.
Oh, it was great. And even this year, it's just we had 3 amazing 8th graders. They were among 5 finalists of middle school and high school students in the Samsung Solve for Tomorrow competition. And these kids, they poured their hearts into it. They worked so hard, so many lunches that they worked on the application, talking things through, meeting with business partners. And, I think we took it harder than they took it when we found out that they were not moving on to the next round. They were not the winners of Arizona. And you in an instant said, let's print this out, let's sign it, and let's put it up there. And, it kind of hangs up there proudly, and, it kind of gives the kids, something to look at. And, it's this highs and lows of, what makes STEM, science, computer science, every core subject great about, you want those kids to kind of have all those soft skills once they walk out of your classroom.
Yeah. Well, and I loved that whole Samsung thing because, those girls they took a ton of pride in that. And it was the day before we went on a break. I think it was Thanksgiving break. That's what it was. And, or maybe it was
Christmas.
It was Christmas, right?
I think we found out over Thanksgiving.
Yeah, they made it into that. But when they found out, they handled it so well. I mean, they were very disappointed. But when I said, let's put it on the nailed it wall, they were really excited. And all 3 of them did it together, and they like made a big thing about it, and they wanted pictures of them holding it up and stapling up there. And just being able to say to the kids, like, okay, this is disappointing, and we're all pretty bummed. However, we're glad we did it, and it doesn't prevent you. And then, like, what's next? So then the conversation was like, well, what else could we do with this idea? It doesn't end here. That doesn't define your ideas, your abilities, and then just kind of like talking about where setbacks put you on the trajectory to go next, And I thought that was pretty remarkable that they were able to. They're very amazing young ladies, but it was a good learning experience for other people too, because they were privy to that conversation, and they were pretty blown away by, just their attitude and their ability to kind of process that.
And that's where the name, the Nailed It Wall, comes from. We wanted to celebrate. We were going back and forth, like trying to come up with names that are unique to us, like who we are, what we believe in for kids. And, we threw some bad names back and forth each other. They can't really come to mind. Can you think of any of the bad names that we had?
No. Oh, wait, no, we had a good one, but it was already somebody's name.
Okay.
It'll come to me.
Yeah. So we went back and forth, and all of a sudden, I don't know if I came up with it or you came up with it. A lot of times we're going to go back and forth.
You were always going to say that it was you. So
I'm always going to try to take credit for it.
100%.
We tend to go back and forth and be like, that was my idea. And
because it's usually mine. Yeah. Just saying.
All right. Well, the jury's still out here. And I'm like, what about the Nailed It Wall? And that just kind of like spoke to everything we are. And if you look on our cover art as you download this podcast, you can kind of see the actual Nailed It Wall from this past year is our backdrop for it. And it's just something that we take great pride in. We love the name. Like we could not be more pumped to kind of be doing this under the name The Nailed It Wall. And
I agree.
Every time I go in there, I see something new posted, I smile, and because every little thing on there has a story,
It does.
And it's just kind of, I feel like what makes us unique as educators, and it just, what we love. I think back to like as teachers, we fail all the time, but very rarely do we like share those with students and tell them like, oh, this happened and this happened. I share those failures all the time with my kids, and they love those stories. Like they're sitting on the edge of their seats, and they're like, what happened next? And I'm like, I can't tell you the end until next time. And then they're losing their minds. I think of I got some great failure stories, but
you really do.
I do. I mean, it's one thing I pride myself on. But then I think back to like in third grade, they do Scientists of the Week, and the awesome student, was doing sewer lice. So trying to get the sewer lice going up and down, and it just wasn't working. And this class is sitting on pins and needles. But all of a sudden, they all just started clapping. They were like so excited. Like they're like, "You failed! You did it!" And they're like, "You're gonna learn from this. You always learn more from failure." And it was just fun to hear, like from such a young age. And I think as we teach more and more to the younger students, like that story came back to me, and the teacher was like, "That was just like the sweetest moment. How they all rallied behind her, and it was a great teacher moment, but it was just a great personal moment."
Yeah. Well, and I think that, for me, I also am pretty transparent with my kids about my failures. This year I try and channel my inner Mr. Lane, the STEM guy, and I tried to do the egg inertia trick, which you'll have to look up, a Steve Spangler thing. And Lane does it with 6 eggs, and I was like, I'm just gonna try. And it was my observation day, and I did it with 4 to be safe, and I did. I nailed that, and it was good. And then I said in other periods, yeah, I really did. Hashtag. And but then I tried 6, and I told the students, like, I'm gonna try this. I know I can do 4, but I'm gonna try 6. And so I have to tell you, I really just eggs went flying, and there was yolk everywhere. I nailed 4, and then the other 2 did not go. And so I thought, well, the rest of the periods I could just go back to 4. But then we just talked about it, and I just said, every period, all right, this is what I'm going to do. I'm not sure how it's going to go, but I don't think that there's any use in playing it safe, and I know I can do 4, so we tried. And, I was able to get 5 of the 6, and one of my students came in after school and said, I love that you tried to go for 6. I heard from another classmate that you got 5, and you only got 4 in mine. So I was really excited about that. And just think, like next week if you kept trying, you'd probably get all 6. And so like for me, that's the whole takeaway. So as a person, I definitely grow. But the excitement for the kids to see, like, that's not where it stops, that you just keep going. And then the other thing about the Nailed It Wall is not just the failures, but then that you take the time to celebrate successes, because I had kids that did really amazing things for 8th grade students. One kid got his professional referee license, and he had to go like special camps for it, and it took hours of certification, and we took his picture and put that up with his card. And then another one got his some kind of a diving certificate, and it was hard. Like, that's like scuba diving, and it's pretty dangerous, and he's certified now for something big. And it's just 2 people, but like, they were so proud to join that wall because they recognize it's like the highs and lows of 8th grade. And so kids will come back and they look at that and they say, oh, you still have my stuff up. And I think it's important. Like, we have to see these kids. We have to celebrate all of it and let them know that that's all important.
Yeah, so that's gonna be our story. We're gonna talk about pop culture. Not that I really understand a lot of it. I pretend I do. Our stories, like we're always, everyone's like, you guys should have a TV show. You guys are so funny together, and like talk about science, education, technology, different conferences we attend where we present, how we work with teachers, and hopefully this is something that makes you laugh, makes you think about like yourself as a parent, as an educator, that kind of person that just is excited to do what you do. And I think for us, we want to get kids excited about this type of like social media platform where they can kind of do these different things. But yeah, so that's where we want the direction of the Nailed It Wall to go.
Yeah, we just want to connect. We hope that we have something to offer, and we really are excited to share our journey with you guys.
All right, well, tune in next week for episode 2. Every Tuesday, we're going to upload a new episode of the Nailed It Wall.
Goodbye for now.
If you can't get enough of the Nailed It Wall, we love Twitter. Search us both on Twitter. You can find me at Mr. Lane, the STEM guy.
And you can find me at A Positive Proton.
Nailed it!